Good morning, everyone. I hope all of you are in good health and are taking good care of others as well in your family. Today's editorial is titled New Economic Assumptions, which has been published in the Business Standard newspaper dated April 27th, 2020. तो आइए इसको पढ़ते हैं और देखते हैं इसमें क्या लिखा हुआ है and what new economic assumptions is this article talking about. So, new economic assumptions. COVID must cause a re-examination of aspects of economics. Economics, all of you know, is the study of production, consumption and distribution of goods and services. ठीक है? तो COVID must or coronavirus disease must cause a re-examination of aspects of economics. The global financial crisis of 2008 caused a re-examination of many aspects of economic theory and policy, particularly with regard to financial innovation and regulation. 2008 का जो financial crisis था that originated in the US by the US subprime crisis and that led to a global financial crisis that led to a re-examination of many aspects of economic theory that and policy that were already running or were exercised at that time. Particularly with regard to financial innovation and regulation. Financial innovation का मतलब होता है when you try to bring in, when you modify old products or you come out with new products, financial products that lead to a better efficiency and better regulation of the financial system is called financial innovation. There are many examples some of which I would like you to write as an answer to a question I will be posting in the description box today. So, financial innovation and regulation. This is as it should be. Any discipline in conception and practice should be reviewed in the light of such a major shock. ठीक है? लिख रहा है कि not only economics, any discipline which is in theory and practice should be reviewed in the light of such a major shock as of the 2008 financial crisis and currently the COVID-19 crisis. ठीक है? कंसेप्शन यहाँ कंसेप्शन का मतलब थ्योरी से होता है. सो किसी भी डिसिप्लिन का, किसी भी सब्जेक्ट का जो भी थ्योरी और प्रैक्टिस है, it should be reviewed under the light of such major shocks. The ongoing economic and public health crisis caused by the spread of COVID-19 should also cause such a review. अब जैसा 2008 के क्राइसिस के बाद आपने सभी चीज़ों को रिव्यू किया था, greater crisis has come onto us this time in the name of COVID-19 and the ongoing economic and public health crisis. All these should be reviewed. The lineaments of such a change in approach are already visible. Lineament होता है all visible characteristics that are you can see that it will lead up to something. So the characteristics, the way you can identify that this will lead to something, all those features of such a change in approach are already visible. For one, it is clear that concerns about the environmental impact of economic activity have hitherto remained marginal. ठीक है? तो पहला जो ऐसा रिव्यू करना है, that is about the impact of on environment of the economic activity. ठीक है? इससे लिखा है, for one, or the first example, it is clear that concerns about the environmental impact of economic activity have hitherto remained marginal. Hitherto is till now. Till the time of discussion or till any time that is referred to, that is hitherto. So till now the environmental impact of economic activities has remained marginal. They have been very less. The discussion or the concerns about this impact have been very less. People have not, or policymakers or governments have not been concerned enough about the environmental impacts of the economic activities. कोई भी इकोनॉमिक एक्टिविटी करने के लिए आपको नेचुरल रिसोर्सेज लगते हैं. नेचुरल रिसोर्सेज लगना है और उसको आप जब यूज़ करते हैं तो पोल्यूशन क्रिएट होता है. पोल्यूशन से फिर आगे जाकर क्लाइमेट चेंज होता है. तो दैट इम्पैक्ट ऑन द क्लाइमेट, ऑन द एनवायरनमेंट ऑफ इकोनॉमिक एक्टिविटीज़ and the concern about such impacts has had a very minimum occupancy in the minds of policymakers and governments across the world. but they need to move center stage. They now need to be put in the center stage and to be discussed with seriousness. Some aspects of the public health crisis reveal the errors of failing to put the center at the center environmental and climate change aspects. ठीक है, some aspects of the public health crisis reveal, अभी जो कोविड-19 की वजह से public health crisis हुआ है, that some aspects of this crisis reveal the errors of failing to put at the center environmental and climate change aspects. आपने environment और climate change के aspects को center पे नहीं रखा, उनके बारे में serious नहीं रहे, and somehow in some way it has led to the present public health crisis. For example, natural resources like public health systems, public goods without which broader economic activity cannot continue. ठीक है, इसका एक एग्जाम्पल है public health system. Public health system is a public good. ठीक है, natural resources are like public health systems, public goods. Natural resources की बात हो रही है यहाँ पे. Natural resources are public goods. अब public good क्या होता है? There are two characteristics on how you can decide or define public goods. If you understand these two characteristics, you can very well define what is a public good. कुछ articles पहले in class we read about social good and distinction between social goods and public goods. आज public goods मिला है तो let's discuss this. There are two characteristics that define a public good. पहला होता है non-excludable, दूसरा होता है non-rivalrous. ठीक है, public good जो होता है non-excludable होता है. It means it is either costly or impossible for one user to exclude others from using it. ठीक है, मतलब या तो वो इतना ज़्यादा कॉस्टली है कि कोई इंडिविजुअल उसको ओन नहीं कर सकता, और इट इज़ इम्पॉसिबल फॉर दैट पर्सन टू एक्सक्लूड और टू प्रिवेंट अदर्स फ्रॉम यूजिंग इट. ठीक है, दूसरा होता है इट इज़ नॉन राइवलरस, मतलब उसको लेकर कभी राइवलरी नहीं होगी. व्हेन अ पर्सन यूजेज अ गुड इट डज नॉट प्रिवेंट अदर्स फ्रॉम यूजिंग इट. ऐसा नहीं कि कोई एक इंडिविजुअल यूज़ कर रहा है तो उसको कोई और यूज़ नहीं कर सकता. सो दीज टू कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स डिफाइन व्हाट अ पब्लिक गुड इज़. ठीक है, तो नेचुरल रिसोर्सेज लाइक पब्लिक हेल्थ सिस्टम्स आर ऑल्सो पब्लिक गुड्स विदाउट विच ब्रॉडर इकोनॉमिक एक्टिविटी कैन नॉट कंटिन्यू. अ प्रॉपर सोशल डिस्काउंट रेट ऑल्सो नीड्स टू बी अप्लाइड. अब सोशल डिस्काउंट रेट क्या होता है? व्हाट इज सोशल डिस्काउंट रेट? सोशल डिस्काउंट रेट इज यूज्ड टू put a present value on costs and benefits that will occur at a later date. ठीक है, क्यों करते हैं ऐसा? There are two reasons of why you use social discount rate. पहला है कि usually it is a tendency to value the future less than today. हम लोग फ्यूचर को उतना ज़्यादा वैल्यू नहीं देते जितना कि अभी देना चाहिए. दिस इज़ डिनायल. वैल्यू इन द सेंस कि लगता है कि इन फ्यूचर the next or coming generations will be better equipped or better efficient or rich enough to deal with the problems by themselves. So there is a discount that we take from them, from the benefits that they would enjoy. We take some discount from those benefits and use it today. That is one reason why we put a social discount rate while making policies related to environment and future generations. Second is impatience, कि कल मिले ना मिले, uncertainty है, तो why not rather have it today. ठीक है, these are two tendencies of policy makers, of individuals throughout the globe. Why we value less and why we are impatient about reaping the benefits. So we do not wait for the future generations or let the future generations enjoy the benefits of natural resources or public goods, to the maximum extent they can, and we want to capture or use some of it today itself, in the belief that in future they will automatically have more potential or greater capacity to enjoy the maximum of those natural resources. So this is why we put a discount rate, or which is technically called social discount rate. ठीक है, तो a proper social discount rate also needs to be applied. So while you are making policies on public goods like natural resources, a social discount rate should always be counted in. Early action on coronavirus was essential, even if costly, in order to prevent even greater costs later, and a similar approach needs to be taken on climate change. ठीक है, लिखा हुआ है कोरोना वायरस पे अगर आपने अर्ली एक्शन लिया होता जो कि ऑल्दो कॉस्टली होता, बट इट वुड हैव प्रिवेंटेड ग्रेटर कॉस्ट्स लेटर. So if you hadn't considered that social discount rate then, so it would have been easier to tackle this pandemic. And a similar approach needs to be taken on climate change as well. Denial of the future costs of climate change will have an effect on economies similar to the denial of the costs of coronavirus. ठीक है. The second reason, the first reason why we read कि social discount rate क्यों लगता है, that was regarding denial. So denial of the future costs of climate change will have an effect on the economies similar to the denial of the cost of coronavirus. अगर आपने शुरू में वो costs को calculate नहीं किया, future costs को neglect किया, deny किया, तो the crisis that ensues or that is going to happen in the future will be the similar as we are facing or seeing or observing in the present coronavirus scenario. ठीक है. The dangers of inappropriate interaction with nature also need to be internalized in economic thinking. Economic policy making, economic thinking में nature के साथ क्या interaction हो रहा है और उसकी वजह से क्या dangers हो सकते हैं, this should also be calculated or this should also be factored in. Coronavirus very likely emerged in Wuhan, as have many other similar viruses, because of the nature of human interactions with animals. In this case, wet markets featuring wildlife that might act as a store of virulent viruses. Virulent viruses are those viruses which are capable of causing a disease. ठीक है, that is a virulent strain of viruses. तो लिखा हुआ है कोरोना वायरस which likely emerged in Wuhan, and there are many other similar viruses also that emerged in Wuhan. Why? Because of the nature of the human interaction with animals. Or in the case of coronavirus, it was in the wet markets that featured wildlife that might act as a store of virulent or disease-causing viruses. Industrialized farming also carries with it similar if less intense dangers. ठीक है, तो वेट मार्केट्स की तो बात हो गई वुहान के. अब इंडस्ट्रियलाइज फार्मिंग अगर करते हैं, अगर मैकेनाइज फार्मिंग करते हैं, अगर फार्म्स में बहुत ज़्यादा इम्प्लीमेंट्स और बहुत डीप फार्मिंग करते हैं, तो इवन दैट आल्सो कैरीज सिमिलर डेंजर्स, ऑल्दो लेस इंटेंस, बट डेंजर्स आर डेंजर्स. The meat, dairying and poultry industries have in the past created epidemics like the mad cow disease. ठीक है. There are of course animal rights questions that are also involved in these discussions, though typically economists do not consider these factors. इसलिए कह रहा है कि the economists need to count in these factors as well. The future of farming will need to be carefully considered and a more integrated approach to its costs developed. ठीक है. Can organic or hydroponic farming produce efficiency and productivity similar to the current fertilizer-based approach without running down natural resource wealth as much? Hydroponic farming का मतलब होता है using nutrient-rich water instead of soil to grow plants. That is hydroponic. Hydro का मतलब water होता है ना, तो hydroponic farming is farming on water. तो क्या organic या hydroponic farming को replace किया जा सकता है से current fertilizer-based farming को replace किया जा सकता है to without running down the natural resource wealth as much. Finally, the nature of global trade, built as it is around the most efficient networks, will have to be re-examined. So global trade जो हो रहा है, that is on the most efficient network currently, and this needs to be re-examined. Efficiency के चक्कर में you have not looked at risks, and you have avoided risks, and you're crossing dangerous paths from where such crises or such epidemics are following you. The financial crisis forced finance to evaluate whether it was making the right trade-offs between returns and exposure to crisis. ठीक है, 2008 financial crisis की बात की जाए तो the risks that were taken by the financial system then were too much, were too high and too intense or too severe compared with the returns that they had calculated from such deals. So after the crisis, obviously the financial system had to relook its strategy and compare the returns and exposure to crisis or risks. So greater capital adequacy requirements. कैपिटल एडिक्वेसी क्या होता है? कैपिटल एडिक्वेसी इज द रेशियो बिटवीन द कैपिटल दैट यू हैव इन योर हैंड्स टू इन्वेस्ट एंड द रिस्क दैट यू हैव. तो कैपिटल डिवाइडेड बाय रिस्क इज कैपिटल एडिक्वेसी. ग्रेटर कैपिटल एडिक्वेसी कहने का मतलब है ग्रेटर रेशियो ऑफ कैपिटल बाय रिस्क. कब होगा ये? या तो कैपिटल ज़्यादा होगा या तो रिस्क कम होगा, या तो न्यूमरेटर ज़्यादा हो या डिनोमिनेटर कम हो, तब जाके वो रेशियो बड़ा होगा. तो लिखा हुआ है ग्रेटर कैपिटल एडिक्वेसी और ग्रेटर कैपिटल बाय रिस्क रेशियो रिक्वायरमेंट्स वर इवेंचुअली मैंडेटेड, रिड्यूसिंग द एफिशिएंसी ऑफ कैपिटल बट ऑल्सो लोअरिंग द चांसेस ऑफ अनदर क्राइसिस. 2008 में जब ये क्राइसिस हुआ तो देखा गया कि भाई आपके रिटर्न्स और एक्सपोजर टू रिस्क का जो, या फिर आपके कैपिटल और रिस्क का जो रेशियो है वो बहुत ही कम है. कम इन द सेंस रिस्क बहुत ज़्यादा है और कैपिटल कम था, या फिर कैपिटल जितना था उतना ही था, रिस्क बहुत ज़्यादा थे तो वो रेशियो कम हो गया. सो ग्रेटर कैपिटल एडिक्वेसी रेशियो वाज फिक्स्ड, वाज मैंडेटेड देन to reduce the and that led to the reduction of the efficiency of capital, but also lowered the risks. Similarly, current global supply chains may be subject to over dependence on certain geographies, or at the very least are not robust enough to survive the loss of some links in their chain. ठीक है, सीधा सीधा this example, this statement is hitting towards China. ठीक है, current global supply chains may be subject to over dependence on certain geographies like China, or at the very least are not robust enough or not strong enough to survive the loss of such links, loss of China in their supply chain. Although costly, the system would need to change, building in certain redundancies. ठीक है, although it will be costly in the beginning to change this entire supply chain, but it needs to be done, and certain redundancies, certain things that were that have been left useless now need to be reincorporated into the system, and the supply chain needs to be changed. That is what this paragraph is telling about. So these are questions that have always been part of the economic analysis but have so far been relegated to the background. Relegated का मतलब होता है kept, given an inferior position, or kept as a subordinate or not taken seriously. So these are questions that have always been part of economic analysis but have so far been relegated, ignored to the background. Given the scale and impact of this unprecedented crisis, unprecedented है मतलब कि it has not been seen or not been observed before. These and similar issues can no longer be ignored. Both policymakers and academic economists will have to re-examine how they think about the costs of environmental assumptions, of interactions with the natural world, and of hyper-efficient supply chains. ठीक है, इन तीन चीज़ों के बारे में, जिसके बारे में विस्तार में ऊपर के पैराग्राफ्स में बताया हुआ है, all the policymakers and economists, academic economists, need to re-examine the policies related to environmental assumptions of how the environmental costs of economic development are affected, of the interactions with the natural world, of how you're exploiting natural resources, and what kind of exposure or what kind of dangers does it involve, and of hyper efficient supply chains, of how supply chains are bringing about such crisis and how they can be mitigated to the best possible way and changed to the best possible way to avoid risks such as these that has currently come into play. It is perhaps time to address potential risks that could be far bigger than those originating within the financial system. तो सिर्फ financial system को internally robust बनाने से कुछ नहीं होगा. All those external features that affect the financial system to the greatest extent, they need to be dealt with first, and only then can you build up a very robust financial system जिसमें कि सारे externalities mitigated हैं, सारे risks mitigated हैं, and there is an overall comprehensive, inclusive financial system that is running in the global economy. This is what was today's article. It is a far-fetched कह सकते हैं. It is a far-seeing something that is looking at a long-term policy, and such thoughts need to be always in your mind while you are making policies or deciding whether such any particular policy regarding climate or environment or natural resources or supply chains is good or not. So this is today's article. I'll put up some questions in the description box so that you can answer and get a clearer understanding. So thank you so much. Do take care of yourself and have a good day.